What compelled you at this time to launch a run for Speaker of the House?
In a nutshell, the events of the second special session that ended maybe a month or so ago, I realized at that point that something had to change. We were in a terrible situation in what Governor Bentley called a special session for a budget crisis, and I and other members watched two bills go through during this budget crisis that had nothing to do with the budget, but it was about giving the Speaker of the House the ability to do things that could be questionable. One was the ability to have an unlimited defense fund, a legislative defense fund. So a speaker or a member could raise money, for their legal defenses with no limit. The other was a bill that has been called the Star Chamber bill, which was designed to allow the members and the leadership to get information from agency heads. Sounds okay, but if you take this as a big puzzle and the pieces line up, that one caused me the most concern, because that one could have been abused. The Speaker of the House, regardless who it was, would be able to bring in, a prosecutorial team and zero out their budget, or at least have power over their budgets that we currently don't have. Those things, taken with the fact that our leadership solution to everything seems to be, let's raise these tax bills with wherever we can get it, I just decided it's time for new leadership.
Well, what do you think has changed since you first came into office? I mean, I'll tell you from my perspective, in 2010, when you guys really came in, you came in a little bit before that, but I still kind of consider you a part
Sure.
of that group that came in.
Mm-hmm.
There was this insatiable appetite for reform. I mean, we saw it a lot on the education front. We've seen it on the budget side. I mean, we've seen a lot of different reform measures, and I give a lot of credit to Republicans who came in 2010. You guys ran on a lot of promises, and you delivered on those things. I mean, point by point by point. Something has changed between then and now, from my perspective, with regard to that appetite for reform. Would you agree with that?
I would. I think, there's a danger. The longer you stay in elected office, the more you become a babysitter of the status quo, even if it's the status quo you've helped shape.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been very disappointed to watch how we've kind of lost our willingness to take on the system. And this past session, or these past three sessions, if you will, Cliff, were more about, let's feed this beast called state government. Let's don't really get into reforming or accountability. Let's just raise taxes to feed it. And that's a huge disappointment. And you can trace it back in some measure to the current Speaker of the House, Mike Hubbard, because he was such a dynamic leader and he was such a visionary, and he did organize a group to help take over and flip the legislature. And year after year, I think he was seen as the mover and the shaker. And now, he does not challenge the governor. He's in a position where he's preoccupied with other things in his life, and I think it's kind of neutralized him in a lot of ways. So now it's led to us losing that edge to now talking about tax increases and basically bullying members like me that didn't support those tax measures. And here comes gambling and lotteries and other so-called solutions to the state problems.
Yeah,
we have lost our edge.
There's a couple of different directions I want to go, the comments you just made. Let me start with the comments you made about essentially the speaker is now preoccupied or distracted by other things in his life. I presume that would at least have something to do with the 23-count indictment that he faces right now on public corruption charges. I've noticed that you haven't really mentioned that in your, we posted an email a day or two ago on Yellowhammer News that you had sent out to your colleagues, kind of laying out the reforms you would like to see made in the House. As you talk about these things, I haven't really seen you mention much about the legal issues that the speaker is facing, with the exception of, I guess, the legal defense fund bill, whatever you want to call it, that they had kind of tried to push forward. Is that, I mean, how big of a part of your decision to run was this 23 count indictment?
Well, it's a fair question, and it's I best describe it as a puzzle with a lot of pieces, and as those pieces come together, you start to see a picture, and take any one of these issues by themselves may be okay, but when you have the speaker in this situation. And he told us before the beginning of 2014 that we could depend on him to keep things separated. Mm-hmm. And we all believe in innocent until proven guilty, and I wish him the very best with that. He's a great guy, a very dynamic individual, one of the most dynamic individuals, Cliff, I've ever known. Mm-hmm. You know, lots of great qualities, and I'm sure that the Lee County situation will play out on its own schedule. So that is a piece of the puzzle, because the great reforms you referred to, you know, that we led on had to do with ethics reform. Remember, that's how we beat up the Democrats to get in office anyway. Mm-hmm. And now to have this same person challenging the laws and their constitutionality, which is designed to allow him to sidestep these indictments, you know, that's just not going to stand. The people of Alabama didn't send us down there to do something in 2010 to take over and then throw it out as soon as one of us, you know, felt like, you know, hey, I got to get rid of this because these very laws I've championed are now a stumbling block to me. So it is a fair thing to say that that's part of what bothers me, to the point that I would challenge a man as powerful as Speaker Hubbard. But he told us that he could keep things separate, and I guess he did his very best. But when we're in a budget special session dealing with two bills that could directly impact the prosecution's ability to go forward on his particular and personal court case, that's not good government, and I will not be a part of that. And I think a lot of members saw the same thing I saw. We had been bullied. A core group of us had been bullied throughout the whole session about vote for these taxes. You know, forget the fact that you made promises that you wouldn't. Vote for these taxes, and it became very, very much strong-arm tactics. So that, along with other things, Cliff, kind of made the puzzle pieces fall into focus for me, and I believe a number of others. And I think there's people that would like to be speaker and have planned on it in their career, whereas I'm kind of the accidental, reluctant leader. These
right.
Other people will not step up, and I'm stepping up. Well, and I'm saying we've got to do better.
The other direction I wanted to go with the line of questioning here based on your comments earlier was the bullying aspect of this. This is something that I think a lot of our listeners would be familiar with when it comes to what we're hearing out of D.C. I think that's a lot of the concern among the Freedom Caucus, the staunch conservatives in D.C., is they feel like that they were being bullied by leadership, and if they didn't vote a certain way, they'd get taken off of committee assignments, et cetera. It sounds like that you believe, certainly yourself and perhaps others with you, feel that the similar tactics have played out in the legislature here in Alabama. And the email that we posted up over at yellowhammernews.com that you sent to your colleagues explains some of the changes that you would like to make to the actual structure of the way that the House operates that would perhaps limit the speaker, the role of speaker, of having that ability to be such a strict disciplinarian, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Could you talk to us a little bit about those changes you would like to see in the House?
Sure. There's tremendous power. You said, coming into this interview that it might be the most powerful position in state government, and with Speaker Hubbard, indeed, he has made it that way because he single-handedly chooses committees and committee chairs and manages the Rules Committee as to what legislation moves. And he has, been very effective, with a top-down style management. We need new leadership, and if we just simply pick a new guy and change the name on the corner office on the fifth floor, I'd say we're going to be right back in this situation again and again and again. So what I offer is more of a bottoms-up approach to empower the members. Let them be able to serve their people back home, so that all of Alabama can feel like they're a part of this legislative process. And I did send a message out to my Republican colleagues. I've got a series of messages that I'm going to be sending out about, hey, there's more than one way to organize a legislature. And this new way would basically form a system so that system would pick people on committees. And then once the committee was established, that committee would pick their chair so that the chair would be responsible to the committee. I'm on, 3 different committees, and in each one, we all kind of look at the chair knowing that, he's got a direct line to the speaker. And in the session, when one of the very first tax bills came to my committee, I killed it. And the speaker came into the room and in a very loud voice basically threatened anything that I held valuable, quote unquote. And that was the beginning of the tone that led throughout the first special session and the second special session, with the speaker becoming more and more animated as to just how far he would go. And in many ways, Governor Bentley's unrecognizable today versus, the 2010 through 2014 years. And in some way, the speaker is becoming, very much a changed leader as well. So again, I'm rambling, but if we lead on principle and we empower the members, then I am in fact downsizing the role of speaker, and I'm putting the power back to the members because the people have elected these folks to come down and represent.
We're talking to State Representative Phil Williams. Phil, from the conversations I've had with some of your colleagues down there, I think it is safe to say that there are a good group of others who feel the same way that you do about things right now. But I think it's also safe to say that there are a large block of Republican colleagues of yours down there who continue to support Mr. Hubbard's speakership. What have they told you about their reasoning for continuing to support him in spite of some of the concerns that you have expressed?
Well, there's some folks that are very much in a sweet position because of the status quo, and no one's going to willingly give that up. But the legislature that we put in place when the Republicans took over was identical to what the Democrats had before. I know because I was there. Yes, we made a couple of name change tweaks to committees, and maybe we created a Veterans Affairs Senior Issues Committee. We did a little thing like that here and there. But there's people down there that are very much enjoying their current role, and it works for them. But this can work for here's a good way to put it, Cliff. Take a chair that is a very well thought of chair. The way I'm structuring committees by creating a system that kind of lets members select their committees, that same chair will be able to get back that position by choosing the committee and then going to work for the members, saying, look, I've done a good job in the past. Let me continue to do a good job. And I want to tell the members there that are confused and concerned about the possibility of change that my way will give them a much louder voice and a much bigger stick to push legislation that's important to them. And this cuts, across the aisle, too. There's Democrats there that have felt like their voice has been completely shut out, and I think they may be interested in this, too, but I haven't communicated with them. The email I sent out went to my House Republican colleagues.
Sure.